and I'm gonna hit you, and I'm like, oh no, please don't hit. Oh no.
Oh hey there, I didn't see ya. You caught me playing one of my favorite games, Cease and Desist Royale. People don't come over very often.
Why is it that you can go 0-13 in Valorant, or get your face beamed over and over in CSGO, or have your champions used and abused in League of Legends, and yet you still want to log back on 5 minutes later? I mean, I don't know, brain damage. How is this enjoyable? Is this fun? Is anyone having fun? Are you having fun?
I wanted to get to the bottom of this, so I asked some of my best friends to tell me their favorite part about their favorite game. Hey Summit Wenji, what's your favorite part of...
I'm actually gonna fucking...
Competitive video games are some of the most fascinating video game genre, in the sense that I have never heard of anyone having a positive experience with them, including myself. And when I say competitive video games, I mean games like CSGO, Valorant, League of Legends, and Tactical. What, you never heard of Tactical? What are you, some sort of Tactifool? The gameplay is fairly straightforward. You're on a team of 5, duking it out with another team of 5, with the goal to kill or capture some sort of objective. You have to communicate with your team, organize attacks, call out call-outs, and work together to beat the opposing team. It's a pretty simple concept, and each game throws in their own unique twists and gimmicks to make their game stand out against its competitors. CSGO and League of Legends really pioneered the success of the genre, spinning out multi-million-dollar esports events and became the definitive version of their respective game genre. Games like Valorant and Dota 2 are also clear examples of how large the demand is for a tactical 5v5 team-oriented competitive game. And with their own spin on skins and loot boxes, these games can essentially print money to build themselves bigger and better every single year.
But why do we play them? I mean, look, I love me some good competitive fun every once in a while, but why are we so inclined to play a game that punishes us so often? Okay, buddy, you cut that out.
There are a dozen reasons you could point out right off the bat for why you like these sorts of games. They're teamwork oriented. There's a wide selection of characters, or guns. And there's always new updates marketed to keep you interested in playing. But that is only a fraction of the reason why you might keep coming back. One strong reason in particular is the variability. It is impossible to have a game that is identical to the last game. With so many agents and moving parts, it's not possible to experience the same game twice. Every game is different from the last. Even if you lose one game, there's always the, well, if I had better teammates, we would have won, or, well, if they didn't have a Sova, we would have had it, or, well, if that Omen jump peeks me one more time, I swear to God!
Match-to-match variability might be the reason why you keep coming back to your favorite game. I mean, look at me, I'm still playing the craft every day.
A game like Minecraft has so much replayability because every world you play is different from the last. Even if you're completing the same objective every time, the constant variability is practicing your mechanical and practical skills. A game like Left 4 Dead 2 has the inverse traits, where the maps stay the same every time, but the developers randomized certain map objects and zombie spawns to be unique in every match you play. Along with the change in teammates, the game becomes incredibly replayable despite finishing the storyline over and over. And just like in Valorant, CSGO, or League, you're going to be teaming up with a crew you've never met, with a team comp you're not familiar with, against people in the same boat. And it doesn't matter that you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, because it's a different experience every time. But then that brings up an important question. Is this behavior addiction?
Yes!
It seems almost believable at first. Video game addiction is covered frequently in mainstream news cycles and is often the default when discussing the overconsumption of video games. I will admit, I spend a lot of time in front of a screen. I mean, once you factor in all those marketing Mondays, my hourly rate on the internet is likely undesirable.
But I ain't no addict. Hey, I said you cut that out.
Platforms like TikTok have perfected the just one more genre, and have found success in baiting an audience into watching hundreds and hundreds of short videos in a single session. And just like TikTok, many of these competitive games have that just one more hook that makes putting down the game that much harder. And that's before you even consider loot crates and skins, which can hook a younger and impressionable audience into virtual gambling. Locations like Belgium have already banned the practice of loot crates based off of that reason, so the idea that these games are borderline addicting might be a feasible threat.
And when it comes to a scholar like myself, I gotta see the science.
A recent study by the Repositorio Institucional in Spain found a recent phenomenon that correlated video games to addiction in college males. The study showed that 1 in 6 freshmen and sophomore males transitioning into their first college semester had a strong correlation of being addicted to video games, with the majority engaging in overconsumption. The reason? Boys transitioning into college the past year had less social interactions due to COVID, stayed indoors more than before, and no longer had parental supervision. While that is a very interesting phenomenon, you have to realize that A, not everyone is a college male, B, video games have been around for longer than COVID, and
C, I got a study from Delarna University that says highly engaged players aren't actually addicted. Say that, State of Ohio Rehabilitation Center.
that's a real study, by the way. Turns out, video game addiction is a lot less common than you might think. That study from Spain also mentioned how video game addiction was one of the least common addictions found in college males. It was predominantly alcohol, tobacco, and weed. Video games have been and will continue to be a relatively small part in everyone's lives.
Except me, because I'm gonna go pro next season. Just you wait! Silver ain't got nothing on me.
But there is a much less common feature in everyone's brains that predisposes them to get hooked on these games. The real reason why you can't get enough of getting your teeth kicked in is hedonic adaptation. Hedonic adaptation is the ability that makes animals feel neutral after experiencing something very positive or very negative. Let's say you can graph your overall happiness on a line. No matter what happens to you, you will always default to believing your situation is now the new norm. So let's say you just won the lottery. It doesn't matter how much you win or how well you spend it. Very soon after winning that lottery, you will feel exactly the same as you felt beforehand. The same is true if your house burns down. Sooner or later, your standard of living will adapt to your surroundings and your emotional state will be identical to how you felt before. Except your house. Your house is ash. This balancing system we have in our brain makes it almost impossible for us to feel completely satisfied. We're essentially running on a treadmill to surpass expectations that get increasingly harder to achieve.
Almost there! I can feel it!
That same hedonic adaptation is the reason why you can't get enough of your favorite competitive game. Almost every game in the genre is set up to be just long enough for your emotional state to reset within the length of the match. It doesn't matter if you sweep or get swept, because at the end of the day, that high of dropping a 30 bomb only lasts a couple minutes, and that pit in your stomach from getting stomped all game will reset just as fast. With each game also having a heavy MMR system, you'll always be matched against players within a similar ranking, which means you'll never be on a winning or losing streak for too long, which means you'll stay in the balance during your playtime.
And so maybe I broke a couple monitors, you know, granny's in the hospital. Who cares? That's part of the fun. Who cares? You care, I don't care.
Those spikes of rage you feel from round to round only last from round to round. And no matter how memorable those clutches are, that high is only gonna last a couple seconds. And game developers know this. With every game you play, they incentivize you to remember your best moments. Whether that be with a best round metric, or an MVP banner, or final kill cam, you are much more likely to focus on the positives of your game, even if it felt neutral or unenjoyable. Even though you experience bad times as often as good times, those good times are heavily rewarded and emphasized when you leave the game, which makes you crave another match. Developers have hacked a way into your brain that makes you believe you are happier than you really are, and gives you a reason to stay online with the boys and telling them just one more match.
Well, a guy like me, I'm just happy I could play my own little game without some company exploiting me or my profits for their own personal gain.
Hey, if you made it this far, I would love if you shared this with a group chat or some of your friends or whoever you might think is interested, because that'll help out the channel a lot. I'm gonna work on a lot more of these in the future. I'm trying to be a better storyteller, so if you like what you see, maybe hit the sub, maybe you don't, I don't know, maybe I'll buy you a cupcake, who knows, who knows.